All right, let's jump into it. Ryan, welcome to Out of the Hourglass. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Welcome, welcome. It's always good to have a busy, and a safety reports team member joining us here. We love you guys as a vendor partner. Before we jump into the full conversation, for those who haven't had the privilege of meeting you, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and where you're from?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Ryan Reber. I work at Align Ops. I've been here for just over 4 years now. So I do come from the busy company before we got acquired. And then from busy, I did jump over to safety reports. So really familiar with both products. I still work in our Southern Utah office with all of the busy folks. So that's a lot of fun. And then in terms of just who I am, I've lived in Utah my whole life, lived in Southern Utah my whole adult life. I've got my wife and I have 4 kids, so I have no hobbies beyond just doing whatever they want to do. So
Yeah. Or your time is their time.
that's right. No, and
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, we're getting into sports and stuff. They're getting older, so
that's
we're
awesome.
big proponents of all the different sports we're doing.
Good deal. So yeah, your weekends are busy, your nights after
Yeah,
work are busy.
that's right.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm excited to have this conversation because it kind of, well, one, it continues to bring safety to the forefront for our listeners, for Nolan Consulting Group clients. It's our job to kind of keep bringing it to the top, the top of conversation. And so by bringing it to the podcast, we're doing that. And a couple months ago, I had on Paul Cook and Darren Lotus from Painters USA, and they're both active employees or active participants in Nolan Consulting Group from a peer group and safety advisory perspective. And so now it's fun to kind of bring the safety conversation to the tech side of it all. We've talked so much about how it's so important, and business owners, a lot of them realize that, but there's also a lot of barriers to make that happen. And so tech can also help solve that problem. So I kind of wanted to bring you guys on for that reason. Let's dive into it. I mean, you live in this world of talking safety every day now. The reality is there's some pretty sobering facts about safety in the trades and construction industry. It's the numbers are sad. What have you guys seen in terms of working in this space, how dangerous it can be compared to other industries out there?
Yeah, and it, like the way you just said, it's safe until it's not, right? Like
Yes.
it's good. I run into a lot of companies where they're telling us, hey, we've never had like even an injury. We've been in business for 5 years. We've been in business for 10 years. We've been really lucky. We've done a lot of stuff. But then there's the other side of it where I talk to folks who have had, unfortunately, like fatalities on job sites where it's one of those things that just kind of follows them around, especially if you're the one that's responsible for safety. It seems like it's just a hard thing in the industry as a whole. It is a dangerous industry. So then it comes down to like, what can you do or what are you doing so that when you have those unsafe moments, can you at least limit it, right? Can you
Yeah.
take what could have been an injury and make it a near miss? Can you take a near miss and make it just an observation of, hey, we did something unsafe. Luckily, it wasn't even a near miss. No one got injured, no fatalities. So that's a lot of what I see when I talk to companies. And
Yeah.
I would even say like 50-50 when I talk to companies. They've either had an event where it's like, hey, we had an injury. It kind of just woke us up. We realized we need to do something. So now we're actively looking for a solution to help us. Or they're in that bucket that you kind of described earlier, which is, hey, we know we need to do something. We're not sure where to start. Like, so this is where we're starting. We think
Yeah.
software right play.
It's so interesting, kind of the span that lives out there, and kind of exactly what you said. It's not a priority at the times until something happens. I mean, I was just talking this morning or this weekend with Kevin Nolan. Folks who listen to to do this podcast have heard him many a time. He has since retired from Nolan Painting and Nolan Consulting Group, but he's still very active and very much part of the industry. And we were talking about safety, and we were actually talking about roofing. And I was saying, the other day I saw like 12 guys on a roof, 20 feet up, no harnesses on, just throwing things off the side of the house. And the anxiousness that arose in me seeing that. And I think anybody seeing that would be like, oh, that looks a little scary. But I now know more. I've heard more horror stories. I also know the implications of what happens if one of those guys falls off that roof. But then we were saying, construction, roofing, those are very dangerous industries. Excavating, landscaping, painting, lint dryer cleaner companies, they're much lower in terms of the safety risks, but things can still happen. And what we talked about in the last podcast, sometimes it's the littlest things. It's the small trips. It's the 2-foot ladders that can really actually be the most dangerous. When you talk to different companies, different industries, do you see that kind of same scope of maybe not fully understanding the hazards that do exist?
All the time. And sometimes what helps those companies is unfortunately having like OSHA show up at a job site and say, hey, what are you doing here? How come these guys aren't tied off? How come they don't have fall protection? I talked to a roofing company early or late last year into early this year, and they had a $250,000 fine because of what you described, where they had guys on a roof without fall protection. And so it's just like, okay, yeah, that's one of those things that kind of opens your eyes a little bit. And then it is that it's either they've decided that their industry or their specific trade isn't as dangerous, they shouldn't be as worried, or it's that they think they don't have enough employees to be worried about it. That's the other one I run into a lot. I talked to a guy out of California that had like 11 employees, and California is its own beast when it comes to just compliance, but he had a huge problem because he had two injured late last year. So as a result, like his EMR score jumped up, his like recordable incident rate jumped up. And so as a result, his like major job for this year was with a big GC, and they had been ghosting him. Like, I don't think he ended up getting the job. He assumed what had happened was they found out his EMR score had jumped up. He had a couple injuries. They didn't want that liability on their job site. Sometimes it's not even like the potential liability that you have with your trade, but it's also like if something does happen, then what's the implication to your business? What's the waterfall effect of having an issue?
I'm so glad you said that, because Darren from Painters USA spoke to that a little bit as well, especially with companies who are looking to grow and looking to take on bigger jobs, and, connecting with GCs and having those relationships. Those are things that those companies are looking for, those metrics, those standards. If you don't have them recorded, for one, or if they are recorded and they're poor, that's going to hurt you. And that ultimately can also hurt your growth opportunities. It kind of comes like safety infiltrates a lot of different parts of the business, but also what you just said about they don't think that they're big enough for it. We have a conversation coming out. By the time this is released, it'll have just been also published, where I talked to Paul from Red Key Solutions about cybersecurity safety, a whole different type of safety. But a big thing he also sees is companies that have 5 or 6 employees don't think that they're at risk for a cybersecurity incident. Newsflash, you are. So I think this, as small as one company may be, there are so many more risks that they are open to that they don't always realize. So you got to kind of have your eyes open from the get-go. Have you guys seen the safety landscape evolve over the last year? Maybe more technology opportunities, more content, more stories shared. Has it changed? Has it risen more to the top?
I think so. It feels like over the last, especially like the last 12 months, a lot of our conversations have changed from like, do I really need a software to help handle this, to more of a, like, it's more of an if. It's not an if, it's a when. It's, hey, I know this is probably something we should do. The issue is that we're busy. So do we do it when we're not busy? Do we do it next year? When do we want to put it into the budget? And then the other piece is just the reporting side that I feel like everyone's gotten really, really focused on. Like when I'm talking to, and it ranges based on the size of the company. It could be the owner who's managing safety. It could be an office manager, could be your project manager, could be you have a full on like safety manager that's doing it. But when I talk to those folks, usually from like a GC standpoint or from an owner or leadership standpoint, they want to see reporting. They want to see what's going on the job sites. They want to see their safety statistics. And if they're not using a software, that's really, really hard to produce. If not, like, I talked to a company that was using like spreadsheets. So they would have their like crew leads send in their like email their like spreadsheet form that they'd fill out of their like site walk. And then the safety manager would put it in like a master Excel file and send that to the owner rather than an app that would just do it for them.
Like kudos that they're doing it. Like they have a practice, they have a process for it. That process is pretty burdensome.
Yeah. And that's where it's like, hey, that's great. You're doing it, but now use something so that rather than taking 2 hours every evening, it's done for you instantaneously.
Yeah. Let's get a little bit more efficient with our time. For line ops, I mean, so obviously you kind of mentioned at the beginning, line ops acquired Busy, and then they did acquire Safety Reports. Is that correct? A couple of years ago?
Yeah. Safety Safety Reports was a couple years ago, and then we were like 2 years ago. So they acquired Safety Reports first.
From your perspective, why did Align Ops make that acquisition of Safety Reports? Why was it an important tool for them to have in their portfolio of kind of technology platforms?
Yeah, when it's a lot of what we focus on with Busy as well. And Align Ops as a whole is just trying to expand that to different areas. But it's trying to remove paper processes, mostly just because they're inefficient, but
Yep.
there's also element of just inaccurate information. It's easier to pencil whip something if it's on a piece of paper. It's, with Busy, it's a time card, filling it out at the end of the week. With safety, it's going through and either not doing it at all because no one's asking to see your toolbox talk, making sure they got signed off on your JSA. It's removing that paper process while also getting better insight for the ownership of the company. So it fits really, really well with our mantra, our goal here of getting paper off the job sites and getting better information back to leadership to help reduce liability, increase profit, all of that good stuff.
I mean, no one can argue against any of those those things. That's what owners all want. So you mentioned and kind of both with the story, but also the reason why Align Ops chose to go with safety reports. But the paper route isn't cutting it anymore. Talk to me a little bit about it for those who don't know what safety reports is. Give us like the high level overview, because I think then it will lead us nicely into that implementation component of why digital matters.
Yeah, so we've taken a lot of the things that are taking place if you have a safety program in place now, and we've digitized that into separate modules. So we have the ability to do, and people call these a lot of different things, but like your safety inspections. So whether it's a site walk, a site audit, a safety inspection, we're able to cover that. There's a lot of customization that usually comes into that because we have pre-built based on the OSHA standards for construction, which is your 1926 OSHA standards that people can just use out of the gate. But then we also have companies, and it also just depends. It depends on where they're at in their safety process too, where we have some companies that look at that and say, great, this is what we want. We have other companies that look at that and say, hey, that's probably more than we need right now. What we really need is like 10 questions. Like, are people wearing their PPE? Do they have their fall protection if they're working from heights? Like those just high level things, and start there. And then they roll it out in phases to say, hey, let's start here. Let's just start to document that our job sites are safe. Let's do a toolbox talk once a week. And then we can roll into those other things that maybe are a little more advanced. So safety inspections, we can help companies digitize their toolbox talks. We house 300 plus toolbox talks just in our system for them to use. They can upload their own. Some companies really like to go, create their own on PowerPoint or Word and upload them. They can do their job safety analysis or their JSA or their JHA pre-task plan. Again, a lot of different names for it, but we're able to cover folks on that, on their incident reporting, their near miss reporting, doing their like equipment, vehicle, asset inspections. And then our last one that we do is our observations, which is like a see it, say it program. Especially companies that have like 10 to 15 employees, 25 employees love it, because one of the first things, like if you're looking at rolling out a safety program and you don't have one, it's one of the easiest things to roll out, and it's one of the most effective because it gives your employees an easy way to communicate safety concerns back to you
without feeling like any repercussions from a field supervisor or a crew leader.
Exactly. And it's one of those interesting things, like on occasion we'll have people call our phone number, our safety reports phone number. They misunderstand what we are doing because our name is safety reports, and they'll literally call to report their company because they're like, hey, I'm in an environment. I don't have proper PPE. I'm using chemicals. I need help. And it's always so hard because it's like, oh, like, okay, like I can't help you. You should talk to your leadership. You should, if you need to talk to OSHA, like go talk to somebody that can help you. And my guess is that most of those business owners, if you ask them, would probably answer, our employees have the right PPE. We do the right training. We do everything that needs to be done. And they could just have like a rogue supervisor or a rogue PM that they don't realize. So having an app or having an app on everybody's phone where they can anonymously, if needed, say, hey, here's a safety concern. It just gives you that real visibility to your field folk of how are we doing? What can we improve on immediately?
And I mean, at the end of the day, you hope that it doesn't have to be submitted anonymously. You hope that there is a widespread culture within the company where, safety is discussed often enough where should someone bring up a concern, it creates an environment where, yeah, we're going to pause here. I mean, we've talked about on this podcast before, stop work authority, that companies put a stop work authority into place so that if someone doesn't feel comfortable about the environment that they are in, that they can say something. They pause on the job site for whatever brief period of time that is until it's been either resolved or handled, but it should be rewarded. And as opposed to you just taking time from our production, it's those companies that are doing it and rewarding it are the ones that are creating preventable issues from happening. That is so interesting, though, that you've had people call in to report a safety issue. You hope that they go back and they get the response that one would hope that they would receive from their leadership.
100%. And it is too, like, it's one of those things that if you have the right culture, it should be really easy. And I've even seen companies do cool things where they've done like a raffle. So it's, hey, if you submit, like the goal is everyone should be submitting 2 observations a month. Doesn't matter if it's a positive observation, so you could just give somebody kudos, or if it's a negative observation. Obviously, if it's submitted anonymously, it doesn't count because they can't tell that you sent it.
Right.
But those 2 names or those 2 submissions get put into a raffle, and on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, the company does a raffle with those names and gives stuff away. I talked to a company where it was really big for them. They were spending like $1,000 a month on raffle prizes, but it was so effective that they were like, no, like we're going to do this forever. It pays for itself because our injuries go way down. Near misses are way down. Like it's an easy spend for us.
It speaks to a lot the implementation around it. And so when you find something that's effective, like that raffle process, you lean into it because ultimately it's saving you money. But this speaks to just like technology implementation in general. And obviously this is a space you guys come from a lot. You must have some recommended best practices around implementation when it comes to these things, especially when it comes to the field and production. No matter what kind of service industry you are in, production can sometimes have a different mindset than the office or general leadership. What kind of barriers do you often see there?
I think it's with any kind of software with construction is you have different levels of like ability with technology. You may have somebody who's 25 years old, use social media their whole life, really tech savvy, and you might have guys that have been in the trades for 30 years, their first smartphone or second smartphone ever. So we do absolutely run into that. And one of the things that I find to be most successful just at the beginning is, number one, use a safety program that's built for construction. It's kind of like with anything, like if you're using a time tracking system, anything that the field touches, if it's not built for construction, if it's not built to be 2 clicks, 3 clicks, like less than 5 minutes, they're probably not going to use it. That's one of the things that we run into. And then the other one is we do a lot of training. So like for safety reports specifically, we just try to do as much training as possible with those field folks. And the other thing too is we try to get them involved early. So if it's, having a couple of crew leads see the system, understand what it's going to do, understand why the company's moving this direction. Ultimately, no one wants to carry around a binder of like toolbox talks and JSAs and incident forms. Right. It's way better, but you have to make sure that they're a part of that process and a part of that conversation before just dumping it on them. Otherwise, it usually doesn't go as well. And then it's just implementation. It's just helping them actually get the app on their phone, help them log in, help do the training, show them how to use it, which we have an entire training team that's whole job is to help companies get this rolled out for their field crews.
It's wild, like the power and information now that can come from the field. I mean, just because of the apps that are now out there. I mean, the ability for someone to clock into, do their safety trainings or report things from an app, to clock in and clock out, from a time tracking perspective, project management apps. I mean, there's so much on these mobile devices now, and it's not going away. So it's, if you have somebody or you have kind of those older, generation who are not, I don't want to say buying into the technology, but are not following the rules of the technology. Well, that's a larger conversation at the end of the day. I mean, this is the way that companies are going. And if your leaders can't get on board and folks are looking up to them, you can create a larger problem versus, Joe just doesn't do it. He's been around for 30 years here. He's just kind of old school, does his, but people look to Joe, and if Joe's not doing it, why should they do it?
And I've seen companies roll it out first to their tech savvy crews.
Okay.
And that usually helps as well because rolling it out in like a phased rollout. So if you have 5 supervisors and 3 of them are going to love it and 2 are going to be hesitant, roll it out to the 3 first, let them get used to it for 2 or 3 weeks, especially like with a system like this. And frankly, like most apps on phones for construction are pretty straightforward. Like you need 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to be used to it. Because then what helps is they can become your internal champions to help the other 2, right? Then it's hey, Joe has a question. He doesn't know how to use it. Well, he can just walk over to Jim and Jim can show him in 2 clicks how he finishes and completes that toolbox talk or how he completes that daily report or whatever he's doing.
It's a little bit of champion / also some kind of peer accountability assistance. Of all of the things that Safety Reports offers, what is your most favorite feature?
That's a great question. I would say it's probably like a tie, and it depends on your industry, depends on where you're at from a company standpoint. But I love talking to companies about our inspections app, our inspections module, because it has such a big impact from like a liability standpoint, helping from like a safety culture standpoint, because it gives them information of, hey, on our job sites, like where are we unsafe? What are the main 5 things that we're always saying that we're unsafe on? What are the 5 things we're doing really good at? What job sites are unsafe? What job sites are overall safer? Is it a supervisor problem? So I love walking people through that because I can immediately see that click of like, oh, wow, if I'm doing the inspection report, this is going to save me an hour. It may take me 2 hours to do this report, and I'll probably be able to do this now in like 30 minutes to an hour. And that's being conservative, to then like the reporting where they go, wow, this is exactly what my leadership wants to see. I don't have to put together an Excel report anymore. I can just show it. So I love talking about our inspections module. Then the other one is probably just our observations module. Getting it on everybody's phone, getting everyone involved in safety, rolling out some sort of incentive program. I've talked to companies that are already doing incentive programs and they see that and go, oh, this is perfect. This will work exactly with how we're doing our incentive program now to promote a safe workspace. Just makes it easier, and it makes it so that we can see everything that's documented. We can go through and correct all of the potential negative observations that are ever posted. So then, especially for companies that aren't doing safety stuff right now, it's such a great tool to even just show OSHA and say, hey, here's what we're doing to keep our guys safe. If you do like your toolbox talks, your observations, and then like incident reporting, those are like, if I were to say to a company that's not doing anything right now, those would be the 3 things. It's like, you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to jump right into doing JSAs. Do your toolbox talks on a weekly basis, have an observation app on everybody's phone, and document your near misses in your incident reporting.
It's a great place to start. Do you see, of all the tools now that it offers, or just safety activities in general, what do you see as like the hardest behavior to implement? Like if it's easiest to start with the observations, the inspections, the toolbox talks, what's the hardest? And it's not because it's hard from an app perspective, but it's just a hard behavioral thing to get into routine.
Probably, I would say it's the JSAs.
Okay.
So like the ability to do an equipment inspection, a vehicle inspection, those are already required. People are 99% of the time, they're already doing those. They're good at them. They're filling it out on paper. They're filling it out on a Google form or something. So being able to lift that or move that into a software is usually really simple. If a company's not doing JSAs yet, that's usually where it takes the most work to get that up and running, simply because it's supposed to be at least like a daily task analysis. So it's something that instead of doing a toolbox talk once a week and collecting signatures, you're now doing task-specific JSAs and collecting signatures on that every day before you start your day. So that's the one that I would say is probably, if you're already doing JSAs, it's really easy to roll it into a software. If you're not doing JSAs, it's probably the one that takes the most time to get your employees into. And it usually is, and it's kind of with anything, it's doing like a phased rollout of a software. Like if you're not using software, just mimic what you're doing not on software in the software. If you're just doing Toolbox Talks, just start with Toolbox Talks. Then you can roll it out like as a phase 2 to say, okay, we've mastered this in the software. Now let's do JSAs. Now let's do inspections, whatever that next phase is. So typically when I see companies roll out a new software, they're taking it in chunks, and it takes them about a year to roll out into the system fully. And it's usually more successful that way anyway. They get better buy-in because now you're not trying to teach 2 new things. I'm not trying to teach them what a JSA is and how to do it in the app. If it's easier to say, hey, let's at least learn the app, then we'll teach you the JSA.
And for clarity's sake, JSAs are job site audits, correct? So I want to make sure that our listeners know that.
Yeah, there's a lot of names for them. JSA, JHA, so job hazard analysis, a PT, pre-task plan. Ultimately, they all really mean the same thing. It's, can you evaluate the thing that you're about to do, and can you list off the tasks that you're going to do, the hazards that are around that task or tasks, and what are the controls or what are the things you're going to do to keep everybody safe while you do those tasks. That's ultimately what it is. And it's usually the one there's just more to it. There's more effort to it than just, great, let's use safety reports database of Toolbox Talks and start having everyone sign off on those digitally on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I can see how that it gets to be a little more complicated. To be honest, it sounds like it's going to require a little bit more critical thinking about the current, the thing right in front of us versus just a topic in general.
What makes it great? It's just, it's those things that, you don't have to do everything all at once.
Yeah. As we sometimes say, kind of build the bridge as you walk on it. If you wait for the bridge to be built, well, then you're never going to get to the other side. Something's going to happen prior to that bridge being built. That's gonna cause a problem. What would you say? What does, and you've kind of said it in broad terms, but for a company who's maybe listening to this now, who has some safety practices in place, isn't using any great technology for it, what does a successful implementation look like within the first 90 days of using something like safety reports? What would you hope to see that they have in place?
With a company that has like 25-ish employees, just as an example, within the first 90 days, part of the way our system works is different than like a time tracking app where you'd have everyone as a user. It would really just be like your crew leads, maybe like a project manager. So if you have like 25 employees, you're probably going to only have like 5 or 6 users on the system. And with that, it's usually pretty straightforward. 90 days is about as long as it takes to implement our software, with most companies doing it in about 45 days. So like within 90 days, everybody's in the system. Everybody's been using it for weeks. Everybody's doing their Toolbox Talks, doing their observations. All of that's being done in the app. And the way that we do it, and I think it's similar to other software companies as well, is giving you a dedicated onboarding specialist that helps kind of walk you through, hey, how do you want yours to work? What customization do we need to do? And then what training do we need to do with the folks that are going to use the system? And kind of just walking them through that process. So a successful implementation in 90 days would be you're fully up and running in the system.
That's pretty great. I mean, here at Nolan Consulting Group, and part of our summit program, we have a safety certification program, different levels. And level 1 is pretty basic, but it speaks to so many of the things that safety reports, has and features that it provides. It's doing the Toolbox Talks. It's doing the daily huddles. It's doing the safety inspections. Sometimes all of this seems so overwhelming because it's like one more thing to add to operations and one more thing for someone to own or be responsible for. But when you are able to put it into the hands of your team and your production, putting some incentives behind it, safety has to be like a shared responsibility, right? Leadership has to show it's important, but then it becomes shared. People are looking out for each other, and you make it so much easier when you're putting technology to use for something that can seem so daunting. It brings to mind like so much has happened up to this point. I mean, probably there have been apps for safety for many years. I'm trying to think of the one kind of eye auditor was a platform a lot of our clients use for a long time for those audits. Now things have greatly emerged. There's so many more app possibilities. What do you see is exciting when it comes to like new safety technology down the line? What are you excited about? What's the team excited about?
The big thing, and it's hard because the term's overused, but I would say it's probably AI. I think there's a lot of companies that are really good at just putting like the word AI out there and saying, hey, this is AI, when it's more AI-ish than
Yeah,
being
valid.
AI. And so that's the thing. What I'm excited about is, and it's something that we're actively working on here, is like, hey, rather than trying to just put stuff out there that's kind of catchy and flashy, like what are the things that we can put in place to really use like machine learning and AI to give companies better like predictive reporting and analytics of, hey, looking across the industry that you're in, looking across the number of negative observations that have come in, based on what the negative observations were, based on your near misses, based on the toolbox talks you've done recently. Like, here are the things that if it can analyze your company as a whole from a safety standpoint, it should be able to spit you out a predictive, hey, here are the 3 things that you should train on over the next 3 months, because these are likely the areas that you're going to have a higher likelihood of having a potential issue in. So that's what I'm excited for, is rather than you to go through and dissect your own data and look at, hey, what are the toolbox talks we've done? What are the, items that we need to look at that were consistently negative? It's just kind of spitting that out for you, even from an incident standpoint of like, hey, if suddenly we're having a spike in incidents, are they connected at all? Is it everybody's getting injured on the hand, on the knee? Do we need to do a training on how to lift properly? Like even just little things like that can just give you easy insight rather than having to go dig through all of the reporting yourself.
It's like using your own data to get a more sharpened strategy for how to approach safety going forward.
Exactly.
When I saw the safety reports demo, the reporting was very cool. I mean, it doesn't even go down to like the time of day when incidents are more likely to occur, and it shows like the human body and kind of the greater percentages of where things are happening.
It does. It gives you all of that information of, hey, body part region that's getting injured the most on your job sites, the day of the week, the time of month. Is it overtime shifts? Is it normal, daytime shifts? As well as even like what are the like behaviors that were around it? What are the contributing factors that surrounded this? So it does give you all of those trends to just see, hey, why do we have this sudden spike? Or it gives you all of that information to see what are we missing? What are the things that we need to make sure and do to limit this?
When you're talking with businesses, who do you see most often as owning this? Is it the safety? Some companies have like a dedicated safety manager. Sometimes it's the operations manager who's responsible for this, or the production production leader. Who do you most see be the leader of this, and who's the most successful at it?
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of that just comes down to the size of the company.
Okay.
So companies do hit that size where they're like, hey, we at this point, we need a full-time safety person. That is where they would hire that safety manager, that safety director, safety coordinator, whatever they end up calling that role. But before then, it usually is, it's an operational role. So it's either your head operations person, your office manager, you're a project manager that's got a lot of experience in the field, or even a supervisor that's got a lot of experience in the field that you're saying, hey, we need you to do this. And as a part-time of your job needs to be safety. And I've seen all of those groups be really, really successful. I talked to office ladies like 3 weeks ago who decided they wanted to roll out safety reports they actually had just moved from a different company, had used safety reports at that other company, evaluated this new one, and were like, oh yeah, like we're going to be able to use this same software here, even though they moved from a company that was, I think, around like 200 employees down to about like 15 employees.
Okay.
But we're deciding, hey, this is something we need to use here. Their official title was office manager or office admin, but part of their role was making sure people were safe, doing their toolbox talks, doing their observations. So any of those groups can be successful. It just depends on like what are their focuses, where are they putting
Yeah.
their time, and in any of those scenarios, like a software is always going to help, even if it's a full-time role being safety. Like having a software is going to make it easier to do your job rather than
Yeah.
trying to put together Excel sheets on your own.
For sure. Yeah, living in Excel hell, as we as we would say. Excel's great for a lot of things, but it can also, become really cumbersome for a lot of the work that we do. Any final thoughts, Ryan, on how you want listeners to really look at safety and using technology as a competitive advantage versus kind of another line item that they need to think about on their P&L?
Yeah. One of the things that we talk about a lot internally is your most expensive words in business is like, well, this is how we've always done it. I love that. I've always tried to be, hey, like you have to innovate or you die. You always have to be looking for something better, continually learning. So that would be my biggest thing. And I talk to probably 40 to 50 contractors a month. The ones that I just are overall more successful have that attitude of like, hey, I have to continue to improve. Even like just looking at your company as a whole, going like, hey, what are the big things that we have to change, or what are the things that are our biggest gaps or biggest misses? But yeah, I mean, when I talk to a company, they've made that decision that safety is that next thing they need to improve on. And then it's just create an incentive program, make it something that, gamify it is the best way usually I see
Yeah.
companies out, make it a competition, say, hey, whoever can do their toolbox talks and submit them on time for the next month, get, a gift card to Bass Pro Shop or whatever it is. But that's the easiest way to do something like this. And ultimately, yeah, I mean, software, safety reports or otherwise, like definitely is going to be the thing that helps make this better, get you better insights, prevent issues, incidents, reduce liability.
All the things that we want to do. If folks want to learn more about safety reports or connect with you, what is the best way for them to do so?
Best way is just to go to safety-reports.com. You can view, look at all of our different modules, request a demo from there. If you want to reach out to me just directly, my email is ryan.reber@alignops.com, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Awesome. And we'll be sure to link to safety reports and your email as well in the show notes. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on to talk about this. It's always cool to see kind of the flip side of it from a technology perspective. At the end of the day, we want our listeners to be utilizing the tools that exist in the space to kind of help them get smarter, sharper, and better and prevent issues from happening. So it's great to have safety reports out there as an option. So thank you.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me on. It's great talking.
Likewise.